Morning. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order today, and if we can get a roll call, please.
Mr. Lear, Mr. Swanson, Mr. Hess, Ms. Polk, Ms. Weber, Ms. Parker, Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Featherling, Mr. Dennell, Mr. Miller, Mr. Long, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Raymond, Mr. Wheeler,
Present.
Mr. Searoy. We have a quorum.
Excellent. Mr. Africano has an event at 10:30, and we may be pushing it with some of the discussion. Can I get a motion to move him up to the beginning, please? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Mr. Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. How do you measure yourself by other golfers? By height.
This is going to take all of 30 seconds.
Do you need to approve the?
Yeah, is there a motion for the reports from the treasurer? Apologize, Ms. Parker. Second, Mr. Featherling. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Good morning. All I have is we did our, since the last time I was here, we did our second large distribution. We have a little bit left. Final distribution will come somewhere at the end of November. Tax sale is the day after Veterans Day, and we are doing a different sort of tax sale this year. In the past, they rent us computers, and 35 people sit up here and go through all the properties and bid on them, and it takes, I don't know, 4.5 hours. This year we're doing a randomized sale. So all the tax buyers bring us a flash drive, and they get plugged into the computer, and the sale takes about 5 minutes. It randomizes all the bids and tells everybody who won what 5 minutes later. And it saves us a ton of money. So that's a first this year, so we're looking forward to seeing how that works out. Other than that, I think that's it. Tell your constituents, as soon as November rolls around, they can start paying next year's taxes if they want. They can start putting their money away. It's just what they want to hear right before Christmas. But, you know, it does save that big surprise. And we had a senior fair out in Pembroke, I guess about 2 weeks ago. And I think what came out of that senior fair is probably something that is good for your constituents. If you have a problem, make a call, right? Because we can deal with problems early on much easier than we can when they've gone too long, and then there's nothing we can do. So that's all I'd say. I'd entertain any questions.
All right, thank you.
Jimmy Joe's Barbecue, here we go.
Yes, there is a senior fair today at Jimmy Joe's Barbecue at 10:30. 10:30. So. I'm sorry?
Next bio.
Yes. Well, there will be light refreshments. So. Define light, though. That's the problem. We have no public comment today. Approval of minutes, September 28th, 2022. Mr. Hunter. Need a second? Mr. Long, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Need a motion to go into executive session, 5 ILCS 120/2C2, which is collective bargaining. Is there a motion there? Mr. Hess, Mr. Featherling, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber? Aye. Ms. Parker? Aye. Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff? Aye. Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Raymond?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That'll be just a moment, please. Okay, we are back from executive session. Starting off, is there a motion to authorize County Board Chairman or his representative to sign the coroner's collective bargaining agreement? Mr. Hess, can you make that second? Two members of the negotiating team. Any comments, thoughts? Ms. Weber?
Thank you. I just wonder, at the full board meeting, will we get one of those summary sheets as we did with the corrections officers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, it'll be in the packet. So, and they, by the way, they've already voted on this. We have the TA from the union and from.
We do.
Okay,
Obviously, I let the union know that it was tentative based upon the county, the finance and the county board.
okay. Alrighty. Motion and a second? All right, how about a roll call?
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Raymond?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I do want to thank Mike Kuzwara for his efforts, and I don't know, most of all, outside of our bargaining partners, would be Anita's help on this. She's very skilled at presenting what was being discussed at the moment of decision, whether that's in the room or outside the room. So thank you, Anita.
And
really appreciate it.
I would second that, and tremendous help.
Yeah. So, all right, good deal. Moving on, Finance Department, Mr. McCarty. Got to get you some theme music. Jaws? Oh, that's ominous. You could have went Darth Vader too. That'd have been. Wow. All right, get this back.
Oh, I feel small in this chair. Good morning.
Morning.
All right, a lot of ground to cover today. All right, we'll start out with get the right packet here. Our normal look at our tax collections. Still positive trend. I won't spend a lot of time unless somebody has a specific question, but no complaints right now. All right. Any questions before we move on? I won't spend too much time there. One
All right,
question.
Ms. Weber, you're on.
Thank you. I was just looking at the replacement tax, the general fund, a tremendous increase from last month. Is that,
Yeah, what I've read is some of this is being caught up from COVID time frame. So we budgeted a lot more conservative than what these numbers are flowing in, just because we don't expect it to keep flowing at this level. So it'd be nice if it would, but I don't believe this will continue. So it's a nice trend for the time frame that we're receiving.
yeah, thank you.
It goes the same when we talk about the budget for sales tax. We don't predict that's going to continue the way that it has with all the cash that was in the market versus what's going to be happening potentially in a recession. So. Any other questions on those reports? Cash flow? Yeah.
Yeah, cash flow. Yeah, again, I won't spend a lot of time unless there's questions. We'll be opening up the future here in our fiscal year 23 next month, but everything's flowing and looking good at this point, so I won't spend a lot of time there.
We are still at 30 to 45 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're current on all
current on our
accounts
bills.
payable. Yep.
Okay.
Any questions before we move on there? All right. As far as claims, recommended, not recommended, we've got, I don't know, do you want to take these individually or by department? There's 3 from corrections for inmate medical care. Amy's response from the sheriff's department was all the codes and everything were on these claims. The comment was a statement, but all the medical codes that are used to determine the cost were on there, and the sheriff's here to make further comment on it.
Sheriff, do you have comment or questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Again, I was taken off the agenda, rightfully so, to report financial stuff, but I have to come here every month to explain yet another waste of time and energy from the auditor's office. If you look at the original amounts that are owed, the first one itself is over $1,000. I think it's $1,100 and some dollars. And with codes and with the things that one of our employees, Katie, does, the total paid out on that wasn't $1,100, it was like $77. These have been paid off of these statements before. The codes are on there, and there just needs to be a couple things. There needs to be some consistency coming out of the auditor's office as to what their expectation is, and there needs to be some communication. Because quite frankly, this is wasting the finance department's time, it's wasting the sheriff's office time, and this could have been taken care of with a quick email, a quick phone call, and that's all we've ever asked. We probably provide the most invoices, claims, if you will, every month. By all means, if nobody has ever claimed that our department is perfect, we're going to make mistakes, and when those mistakes happen, or when those alleged mistakes happen, you would hope that a simple phone call, if they want to document a paper trail, send an email. But these are things that are very easily rectified, as opposed to wasting Mr. McCarty's time, wasting Amy Ludke's time in our office, and now in turn wasting your time explaining this whole process. So I would recommend that you pay those claims.
Do you want to go through the other ones without the sheriff's department, or would you like to make a motion on just the sheriff's claims? You want to do that first? Motion to approve those. Mr. Long, second. Mr. Featherling, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, if I could, Mr. Chairman, to read in, it was for Illinois Bone and Joint Institute, Central Illinois Radiological and Metro Infectious Disease Consultants.
Noted.
Noted. So, and then the next one, Quill Corporation, this is for administration. You want to take comment on this one?
What's his note say? I'm sorry.
No resolution. Don't see ARPA connection. Thanks.
So the description that the ARPA focus groups that we did out there to help determine how we were going to allocate in the buckets that we were going to try to fill with good projects and things to help our community. I just don't even, there is no logic to this objection whatsoever. It's ridiculous. Is there anybody else that has any, is there a motion to approve this item? Let's go with Mr. Eckhoff and Mrs. Parker. Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, I just got a question. Sheriff, I heard you articulate, these matters could have been clarified and worked out via a phone call or an email. Have there been any instances in which he has not approved some of these expenditures, and he has made a phone call or reached out to you or your staff to address those matters?
Well, this one was us. This one was our focus
I
group.
understand.
The other stuff, I think he had said that it never happens. There is no phone call or email
Never.
or anything. It hasn't been that way for years and years. I could say at least 5. Yes, Mr. Featherling.
Mr. Chairman, when was the last time we saw him at at our meetings? At our county board meeting? I think it was when I first got on here, 4 or 5 years ago, right? 4
No,
years ago?
it was about 2.5 years since he
Okay.
stopped coming to these meetings, and it's been 2 years since he's come to work during the day here at the county to be accountable to the public.
Okay.
2.5 years at $80,000 and a pension and benefits. And why the public is not standing out in front protesting, I don't know.
Friends.
Don't know.
Okay, thank you.
If I did that or anybody else here did that, it would be completely front page news every day. But apparently it doesn't matter that someone is, well, I'll just leave it like that.
Ghosting.
Nobody's keeping him from doing his job except himself. All right, so is there a motion and a second? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Ms. Weber.
Aye.
Ms. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I see some past dues in here for Protection Associates. What do we got?
Yeah, the Protection Associate is a $10 past due amount.
$10.
We,
Right, all this
uh,
stuff, $10.
As far as the payment, we made this original payment on 8/4/22. So, yeah, Dan sent this through, and then he is aware of this, and you know they processed the payment to catch up. I will say in the past that we would argue this because of the 60-day. We have a 60-day window to pay bills in. We did that. So Dan, you know, he wanted to get the input of the committee. We will, you know, fight it if you want to fight it, but we're bringing it here for also for communication wise.
So what did we do? Did we short pay the invoice originally?
No, it's just the timing. I believe it's a computer that just, if the payment doesn't get there a certain amount, it automatically resends out a late fee on the next statement.
And so Dan didn't get the late fee waived or anything, or what?
We can attempt to do that, you know what I mean, and take care of it as well, so. I know Dan's been busy.
It cost us at least a couple $100, probably more, to cut a check. Can you see if we can't get that waived?
Sure.
Or they just include it on the next invoice. I would much rather not see the $10. But,
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
is that acceptable to the committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
will do.
We want to be fair, but, I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Fair's fair.
All right.
And then monthly claims.
Make sure here.
So short explanation, if I would, on monthly claims. There was a computer hiccup down in the treasurer's office when she went to start printing checks. And as you can see, the system doesn't let go of or delete any activity that takes place. So it was reset and we continued on with the check run, but you can see that, you know, it always gives us an audit trail of everything that happens, and sometimes you even see the glitches. So in the first 3 pages, 4 pages. So that's why those are there.
Kind of nice kind of bills.
We didn't pay anybody anything.
Yeah,
Kind of like, what, 7 years ago?
yeah.
All right, so is there a motion on the claims to approve the claims? Mr. Eckhoff, Mr. Hunter, second. Roll call real quick.
Mr. Hess.
Aye.
Ms. Weber.
Aye.
Ms. Parker.
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield.
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Featherling.
Aye.
Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mr. Hunter.
Aye.
Mr. Raymond.
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye,
Motion carries.
thank you. All right,
All right, the next is the approval of the FY23 draft appropriation budget. Before we get into the main document, got a short presentation for you. So this year, the total budget for all activity is $105,764,723 before you today. Of those that total amount, the general fund is 36.2 million. The tort fund was 3.4 million. The pension fund is 6.9 million. And some of the other notables, the highway fund is 28.5 million, and the 2 ARPA funds combined are 10.8 million. Some of the breakdown as far as the total. One of the real important factors as we look at how we're ending FY22 and heading into our FY23 is that our combined fund balances for the 3 major funds, general fund, tort fund, and pension fund, have now surpassed what was the highest point in 2008. So that's significant, and we surpassed it by a couple million. So we are in better shape to, if you will, be recession ready. As we learned, as we look back and when happened in 09 and 10 and in the economic downturn then, we're the information that we're getting, as we're all hearing, that an economic downturn is likely. So the reason we build up and you want to be at a level like this is because of an unknown change and be able to absorb that and continue to operate. So extremely important level to be at. So it is something to be proud of compared to where we were. But unfortunately, as soon as you build things up, things change, and sometimes it's potential that it could go down. But we're at a level now that we can absorb that. As far as the numbers are concerned, that total is 13 million in the combined total. The 2008 number was 9.6 million. So that's the difference between 08 and today. From our lowest point, we're roughly, what's the next number, just over 17 million, 17.1 million, improvement from 2016. So that is significant in that short a period of time. As far as the general fund from 21 to 22, has a lot to do with the reports we just looked at and the tax collections, and the ability to help build that fund balance back up, before an unknown takes place. But
Could I clarify something?
yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about sales tax, use tax, replacement tax. We're not talking, because our levy is only increased on average 3% per year.
Right.
So I just want to draw that distinction, and we haven't done this on property, the backs of property taxes. We did it with basically not spending all of this new revenue that came in during COVID and all of the revenue that Mike got out of the jail, despite what the state of Illinois tried to do to us. So, and then on the side there is basically we're trying to recession-proof this, and we really don't know what the Safety Act is going to bring in terms of reduced revenues and added cost. We think we do about 9 million over 5 years, but we've got to build something in there while we wait and see. And then try to keep our hands around this on a month-to-month basis. So,
yeah, and as far as what's built in to the budget, not only looking at the fund balances, but with the strongest reserves since 2008, and then very conservative revenue projections, and then higher than normal contingency budget, are all built in to the budget document itself, all in preparation and hopes for an unknown, and to be able to again absorb potential economic change that might be coming our way here in the next what we're hearing within the next 12 months. So we'll see. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then the other important thing that's also built in the capital development worksheet, as we talked about last month, is paying down the Series 2009 bonds. Those are budgeted for FY23 and FY24. So this shows you a little bit future, as well as continuing squad leases and other vehicle leases going forward. So we're not stopping the operations. We still have it all built in, and we're also using those sales tax, use tax, income tax, PPRT tax to also pay down the Series 2009, which helps taxpayers overall. So
so that was it. It was better to see it visually, because sometimes you see numbers on a page, they don't jump, and it was important. Thank you, Steve, for that.
yeah. So if there's specific questions or not from your review over the weekend, the document itself or a specific area within the document, I'll be happy to answer that. We wanted to, do the highlights, the big picture, look at it, But, you know, I'm definitely willing to answer any questions if there are any here as far as specifically in the document itself, if the committee has any specific questions. Mr. Hunter's got his hand.
Yes, Mr. Hunter, please.
Steve, and thank you for your comprehensive report. What do you attribute our sound fiscal situation? If you had to identify several reasons, what would they be?
Well, as far as the most recent or the 4 or 5 years, you're talking
Showing the evolution.
the evolution. Yeah, the evolution is, you know, what the sheriff's department did over the last few years with the program, for sure. All the departments and working with the chairman with, you know, cost cutting measures and cost saving measures and cost control measures, keeping you know, costs down. Everybody learned to work more efficiently, you know, from what we went through, and everybody continues to do that. So, and then, you know, as you've seen, we've had an increase in the sales tax area, PPRT, and those types of areas as well, as far as some economically, some the state changed with the way they're collecting the online sales tax and redistributing that. So those are off the top of my head, you know, I mean, those are some of the main factors. But, you know, coming through what we went through, you know, I mean, as far as what the chairman inherited when he started, and then what all the departments have done, what all the employees have done, you know, the electeds, the appointed officials, you know, everybody working together to get out of that hole is you know, extraordinary, you know, from you know, watching it from my perspective and being able to see us, you know, be able to do this is just, and, you know, hearing it from Moody's, hearing it from the bond, those people that purchased our bonds, the people that were involved selling our bonds, you know, I mean, everybody is, you know, what they've seen us is actually extraordinary in what we've done in just a few, you know, 4, 5, 6 years.
And it's good to hear, you know, those comments from Moody's.
And the people actually purchasing the bonds, you know, there was a demand for it, so.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Steve, how far back, like when they come out to review your rating for your bonds and stuff, I mean, we're saving money because we're getting better rates and everything's going well and everything's going good, but how far back do they go when they come out and do like basically a credit check on it? Do they go back 3, 4 years in your amounts, or do they just go, you know, 2 or 3 years, or how long is it going to take us to eliminate that shadow that's being cast from the 2000, was that 10 that you had?
You know, they do take current, you know, so they're watching the cash flow, you know, the cash on hand, you know, I mean, cash flow. They are watching current. The other factors that are kind of beyond our control are local economic factors that are built in, you know, I mean, as far as the overall, but they take in the manufacturing, you know, the employment, they take a lot of things come in. So some are within our control, some are not, that factor in, you know, overall to that. But they continue to watch our reserves. You know, we're budgeting, you know, not only the fund balance, but the cash on hand, all of those factors, you know, I mean, as far as building. So the fact that we've gone up and we're just, you know, I mean, as far as just one really notch below where our highest has been, really just is determining on just continuing to grow and stuff. So I would say it's a very small look back at this point.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But if the market recovers, like on new cars, they don't have hardly any new cars, used cars, nobody's buying them because they're too expensive. So are we losing, we're still doing good and we don't have that revenue from all those extra cars and things that aren't being sold right now? Is that, I mean, that stuff reflected in your numbers that you?
Well, I mean, overall I went conservative, you know what I mean, as far as future numbers. But what's hard right now with like sales tax, what you're talking about is the online stuff is now included, you know what I mean? Okay. So it's hard to trend that because there's been a change in the last year, you know what I mean? So it's now a whole different avenue. Okay. So getting that detail is, they don't, you got to really dig and search for, and that detail isn't always available because it's proprietary, you know, overall. So
okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see this budget as a very conservative budget as well, Steve. The only area that I have a really big question on is Fund 380, the VAC. I see that and I understand it's a separate board, but I just want to go ahead and highlight that they're going to go ahead and spend $340,000 more next year than they are currently this year, mainly on staff that I'm seeing in this budget. And they're going to be with about $57,000 you're projecting by the end of the year, next year at the end of the budget. I just want to go ahead and point out that I'm a little worried about that one. So.
Yeah, this was sent to us. This was approved by their board and forwarded on to us. And there was a little bit of confusion of what the property tax amount will be with some of the changes. This is, the projected amount of property tax underneath the cap going forward. But this is the amount that they budgeted to spend for fiscal year 23. It also includes new and rent and utilities going forward as well.
So I just wanted to point that one out as a one that I'm a little worried about.
Sure.
I have concerns about they're not going to have a fund balance.
They're not going to have money for the future funding that office.
Concern too.
Yeah.
Yes, but again, they have their own board. They made their own decisions. We have to fund at an appropriate level. Yes, sir.
Chairman, didn't she say that when they made their move that, you had mentioned that we talked about, is this, you got this, or is this under control, or like, my concern when I saw it was that they said it, they're gonna be able to do it within their means, and now it's not their means, so I didn't know. Does that come from, can that be granted in from somebody somewhere else, or are they working on funds?
They can go after grants for sure. And
Okay.
yeah, we did talk about that in our meeting. Yeah.
'Cause I don't ever hear any about them getting any money for anything grant-wise.
There's a lot of grants out there.
Yeah.
So
Is that something that they?
we'd be happy to, I'm sure, to entertain the whole fiscal agent part of it if they would have trouble maintaining those grants. It seems like we're starting to become that for everybody. Steve's like, yeah, great. It's what we can do to help people that don't have that skill set, or they're not GATA certified, or those types of things. So hopefully we don't have to add people for it down the road, but with these smaller communities, we're helping them out. We're running grants through us or appropriations through us to give to these smaller towns that just don't have staff to handle it. So it's what we do as a community partner.
So
yes,
Mr. Wilson's handling grants for everybody then?
it's more like Mr. Kerner is.
Okay.
Yeah. Chris is the one who's the grant manager. Mr. Wilson is the one who knows how to speak DCEO, that whole other language that they speak in that department. So that's it, which is an incredible value to us. So, is there any other questions? Yes, Ms. Weber.
Thank you. I was looking at the budgets for 095, 098, and those revenues are what is available now for the last section of it. Is that right? So if there's
That's correct, yeah.
4 million.
As far as what we expect to transfer over each year. Yeah, we have all the revenue. It's more how the money goes from year to year. Then it's not new revenue. It's just transfer.
that's the amount that's
transferred. Yeah.
and then projected would be those really haven't been
Spent.
those really haven't been expended yet. They have
Right.
to be requested to be expended, right?
Yeah,
So they're
yeah.
just projections.
Yeah.
But they can't be expended if they're not appropriated. So we're appropriating them just in case these things pop next year.
Yeah.
We don't have to come and get, what, a 3/4 board?
Well,
Majority
2/3.
to
Yeah,
amend-
it takes
2/3 to amend.
2/3 to amend.
Yeah.
I
So-
just appreciate the budget. I think that helps a lot in streamlining giving it away. Yes.
Or investing it.
Or investing it.
I like that word.
Yeah, maybe so.
Any other thoughts? Do we have motion and second on budget? Is there a motion to approve the draft appropriation budget? Mr. Eckloff, a second. Mr. Featherling, Featherfield, sorry, I almost did it, but I didn't. Is there any other thoughts on this? I think we got a tight budget that at least it gives us a roadmap and allows us to really take us where the state of Illinois leads us over this whole Safety Act. And then I just really, I'm not hopeful that for next year as far as escaping a recession, to be honest. I just don't see how, but we're ready for it at least. As ready as you can be. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess? Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker? Aye. Mr. Fairfield? Aye. Mr. Eckhoff? Aye. Mr. Featherling? Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for that. You know, I just want to mention here, and I kind of put this together beforehand this morning, trying to think about your question about the shadow. You know, the shadow's gone. In the junk bond rating in 2016 has turned into a prime rating now. We started the year in the negative with as far as cash, and then we wouldn't have cash in June. That's where all the TAWs were coming. We were spending last year's taxes to pay this year's bills. In 2022, we started the year funded, no borrowing internally or externally, and investors are fighting over our business. We used to be at about 200 days accounts payable. You just heard 30 to 45. Local businesses aren't our banks anymore. Unwilling bankers at that. And then, by the way, they always got their money back and their interest on the next job. So I just wanted to mention that. We had a negative 4.1 fund balance in 2015, up to 13.1. You saw those numbers. That's a record high. Waiting for taxes to pay off the previous year's spending, mentioned that. This next 2 years, we're giving back $2.5 million to the taxpayers, coming right off the bills at that point. The county was saddled by bond debt, low revenues, and instability in 2016, and the county's paid off our debt. And in 2024, virtually all bonded debt will be retired, stable county finances. None of this is fuzzy. None of this is, you know, can sit out there and it's all backed up by the numbers and the documentation. It's all online, and we've done this in the wide open, and we haven't done it on the backs of the taxpayers. So thanks to the department heads, thanks to the board, thanks for letting us say no to everything that, you know, when the money comes in, people want to spend it. Well, we had to get out of the hole, and now we're out of the hole, and we're still not going to spend it. So I just wanted to mention that it's the tale of two eras, really, of what we've done. So yeah, Steve, amazing job. Yeah,
Thanks, Steve.
the culture is completely different. I think you can tell that too. We're not at each other's throats as department heads or leaders in the county. It's completely different than it used to be. Everybody was at war with each other back in 2015 and 2016 when it was at the height of really the bad financial situation we were in. And it was always somebody else's fault. And so we made the solution everybody's solution. So thank you for that to the department heads. And really the people that work here, you know, everybody wants 10% raises every year. We couldn't do that. So thanks so much. And moving on then, ARPA requests.
All right. The first one for lost revenue, we're just we're amending an original resolution from May and changing funds from 095 to fund 098. So that was just, does that need to be voted on here then?
Yeah, we should vote on that, amending that resolution. Just changing which fund we're taking it from. Is there a motion on that? Mr. Parker, second. Mrs. Weber, we should do a roll call then, unless there's any questions. Want to make sure. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Hess? Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Featherling? Mr. Miller? Mr. Long? Mr. Hunter? Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion carries. The next one was ICAM. I believe?
Yeah. This was through budget discussion and changes that they're doing. Has a lot to do with truancy and activity, you know, within Kankakee County. It's a total of $30,000. So in order to get the blessing to use $20,000 in FY23 and $10,000 in FY24, you know, we've been doing board resolution and blessing to make sure we've got the ARPA stuff covered. So that's what this is about, just for to help with additional funding for that activity for them.
For truancy, which is an impact of the one of the biggest, I got to be honest, for these kids is there's some laptops that were never turned on since this started. Haven't been on since 2020. They're just not there. So I found it appropriate. Is there a motion on this one to allow them? Mr. Hess, Mrs. Parker, second. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess? Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker? Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right.
All right, direct ARPA, the Kinkee River Valley Forest Preserve District, their request was for 50,000. They're eligible under the non-covered government cap for 20,000. They identified parking lot improvements, specifically at the Highland Lakes Reserve, and other areas. So just for a few details as far as their application was concerned. So they are eligible for the 20,000.
Is there a motion on this, Mrs. Parker? Mr. Eckhoff, second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess. Ms. Weber. Ms. Parker. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Limestone Township Library District.
The River Valley
Oh, River
Special
Valley,
Recreation Association. This is a $20,000 request. They are eligible for 20,000 under the non-covered government reimbursement wise. This is for concrete work or for addition for their area within their recreation within their building, I believe, to provide a cleaner environment for the participants. So they're putting down a polyaspartic flake system, so it's clean up, sealing and non-stick
or non-slip floor. Yeah.
Overall, so they are eligible for 20,000.
Mr. Miller, is that a motion?
Yes.
A second on that one? Mr. Fairfield, any thoughts, questions? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess. Ms. Weber. Ms. Parker. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, then the last one, Limestone Township Library District. Their specific request was for $13,576.46. They're eligible for that amount under the non-covered government. And this is specifically for hot water heater replacement at their building, at their library building. So
reimbursement, was that?
It was reimbursement.
13, what was that?
$13,576.46.
Okay. Is there a motion on this one, Mr. Long? Second, Mrs. Weber. Any questions? And these are ARPA proper. So it's the actual law itself says that these are permitted uses, not an interpretation by Treasury. Yes, did you have a question? I'm sorry, Ms. Weber.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment that we do receive plenty of information about these proposals each time, so it is clear and transparent what these are being spent for and whether it should be approved or not.
Thank you. I was going to say that at the end because I've heard some assertions of those comments, and everybody has their opinion, but we set forth the rules as a board. You guys all voted on that stuff, and every one of these is measured up against that, and if it doesn't meet the standard, we even tell you that. And it doesn't meet the standard, and if you want to change the standard, you can as a board. And we've kind of gone outside of that. I will bring up Pembroke Township as an example. They got more than the cap because they don't have a levee. They had wastewater in people's basements. So we voted outside of our rules to do that. It was intentional and transparent. So, by the way, motion carries?
We need a roll.
We need a roll call, sorry.
Mr. Hess. Ms. Weber.
Aye.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Fairfield. Mr. Eckhoff. Mr. Featherling. Mr. Miller. Mr. Long. Mr. Hunter. Mr. Raymond. Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that looks like it.
That's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sorry, did we, River Valley's, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did we miss River Valley Special Recreation?
We did it.
We did it?
Yeah.
Did I doze off?
No. That was the no slip floor.
Pardon?
That was the concrete no slip floor.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just.
I almost skipped it.
Yeah. You voted.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was an aye for Tinker. All right, thank you. Auditor's not here.
I think this chair's gone bad.
Chairs going back?
Lifted up and went back down. Also, it's me. Could be me.
It's probably you.
Yeah.
Too concrete. So
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on. Other business. Don't have any today from the group. Old business. Greg? Yeah, it looks like that chair is on its last leg. I'm sorry, it was
Legs.
right there. It was. I didn't even mean it until I started saying it. But yeah, go ahead there. Floor is yours, sir.
All right, I just wanted to bring everyone up to date since the Highway and Buildings Committee meeting referred that to this committee. The price of the Gradall hasn't changed. I have narrowed down the options. We had a few at the Highway and Building Committee and pretty much want to put a down payment down and finance it. We couldn't afford this in 1 year, no matter what we did, no matter what we moved around. So I've talked to a banker, and he pretty much mentioned crystal ball a lot. I mean, he doesn't know where interest rates are going. With a delivery date of May or June, nobody's going to guarantee any interest now. We have the option to order this Gradall through Sourcewell, which is a national bidding organization that it's approved price. No payment is required until we take delivery of the Gradall. So that's when the down payment would be due, which we're expecting May, but with supply chain issues, I'm not going to be surprised if it goes later than that. The only, I guess, issue here is the financing, and it's a lot of money, and I would assume, I would like to get approval to get in line to order the Gradall, understanding that the financing is going to have to be bid out.
It's got to be bid out once it gets here. We'll put to three. Yeah, we have to get 3 bids.
And I'm hoping interest rates go down, but I'm not very optimistic.
The interest, I think, as it was on here, was like 70-some thousand. So it's over 30. So we have to bid the financing.
And that was with my crystal ball guess of 8%. Who knows where it's going to be come next year?
Now, is this, if it doesn't go Sourcewell, is this a piece of equipment that's on the state bid list? So we do have a floor price, if you will.
It won't be on the state bid list, but Sourcewell is kind of the same operation as that. They have done the national bidding for this piece of equipment, and the price that we have is the price everybody would be paying.
Okay, well, I need to have that run through the state's attorney, because we have to bid everything out if it's not on the bid list. So I'll need to hear from them about that, please. Because if maybe Sourcewell counts as 3 bids because they're soliciting that from the world. I don't know. But typically we have to do that or have it documented that this is the price for this truck through the state bid process. Just making sure here, because I don't want it to come back that we bought it from one company and we didn't even look at others. Okay, thank you. So all I need is hear from the state's attorney. That's it. Mr. Hess?
I'd make the motion to go ahead and purchase this with the approval of the state's attorney's office.
Right. Now it would be for him to sign the contract, because
for ordering it,
because the contract probably binds us to the purchase. Is that correct? Have you seen the contract? Correct. Okay. So since we're not putting a downstroke, I'm sure that they would require some type of agreement that would allow us to put it on order and not walk away from it.
The highway building, it is in his budget.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, he can sign it. Yeah. It's just we're giving that authority for him to sign the contract. That's probably where we're at. And then before it gets here, we'll bid out the financing. Fair? Is there a second on that, Mr. Featherling? Ms. Weber?
Thank you. I was noticing on the offer that the bid quote was only valid to 10/14. Did that get extended?
That price won't change.
Okay.
I know the quote had it, they wanted us to sign up real quick, but they will change those dates and it'll be the same price.
Thank you.
All right. Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker? Aye. Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter? Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Let's see here. 2023 property liability, work comp, inland marine, and insurance renewal. just what everybody likes to talk about at the end of a long meeting. Let's get a motion first. Is there a motion to approve the renewal first? Mr. Featherling and Mr. Fairfield. Anita, could we run through a couple things real quick? Thank you. And then ask your question when she's done, please. Thank you.
So the page that's up there right now, I can't quite see, is that the work comp page?
Yeah.
So the key thing I want to make a mention about the work comp page, if you go down, the top part is all the work comp classification. So every one of our employees is assigned a work comp code. And so we run estimates upstairs. Joanne essentially runs our payroll, and we estimate what it's going to be next year. And that's how we estimate where the basis is. But if you look down below where we go into the total payroll by classification and the rate, but experience modifier, I want you to look at the difference between 2020 to 2023. We go from 1.04, because what happens is you take that number, the calculation of the rate times the estimated payroll, and then you either get an uptick or a reduction in that based on your experience. And in 2020, we were at an experience modifier of 1.04, which means we had an extra 4% increase. We are for next year at a 0.83.
Wow.
Huge.
Yep.
That goes to our managers and for creating a safe environment, and our employees for following our safety rules. So we're really, that's huge. That's a 20% reduction. So that helps us offset expenses in other areas. So if you look at this summary page, really what you're seeing then on top is the total premium. You're looking at liability on top, property values, auto and vehicle, etc. That comes in at $1,404,000. Down below we go into work comp, which shows a reduction of 7%. And then we have the total of all the policies together is $2,056,666. It's an 8.9% increase over last year, understanding that we've got an inflation rate somewhere around 8.2 to 8.5. So really the way it worked out, with some tough conversations, we came in at 8.9%. Right below that, you'll see that additional coverage option. We talked about this last year. We could get to 5.04. That is if we change our jail liability deductible. And Kelly, you want to flip to that next page? We're currently, oh, not that page, the one that looks like this. There you go. We're currently at a $15,000 deductible on any jail liability claim. And if we move to a $25,000 deductible, we would be able to save money. Now, what I want to make clear is the average, that difference between $15,000 and $25,000, that average over 4 years is $59,000. And the difference in the premium would be $64,900, so $65,000. So what we would save by taking this gamble is $5,000. Is this the time we want to do this with increasing inflation and concern about what's going on next year?
And that's why I recommended that we, to those guys, that we don't do the 25, because we don't know what Safety Act is going to mean with the population in the jail. To take that kind of a risk over $5,000, and what if it explodes at the end of the year? Then I didn't see. We look at that move next year once we have a year under the Safety Act. Heaven forbid that ends up happening, but if we do, then we at least have some idea on what that cost is going to be. So it was really up to the committee, the people that made the motion. Is the motion that you're making for staying with the deductible we have, or increasing it to potentially save $5,000? Maybe. Stay where we're at? Is that reflected? Okay, so that's the motion, staying where we're at on the deductible at 15. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I had a question about the inland marine insurance renewal. what's inland marine for Kankakee County? People working on the river, is that what that's?
No,
called?
inland marine is equipment.
Yeah.
So it's all the highway equipment. It is equipment that is not an auto, that doesn't fall under auto.
Marine means water to me.
Water, yeah.
Right, and at one point, we used to have like jet skis for sheriff's department. We don't have those anymore. You drove one of those, right? Just picture the, you know, the Speedo, it was,
I can picture that.
I don't think we have anything right now. There may be some small equipment that we have for that pulling logs out or something like that, but it's not substantial.
But that would be here.
I'd have to look at the page to see if we're actually insuring anything along those roads.
We won't have to add that when we're working on the river, then we don't have to change
It
it.
would be an added piece of equipment. Once we get equipment, then it's ours equipment.
So-
If we're contracting, no.
If it's a county's name.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a question.
Any other thoughts on that? Yeah.
Thanks.
Hopefully we will have that problem.
Yeah.
You know, and we will. All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Hunter?
Aye.
Mr. Raymond? Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Hess? Second? Ooh. Mr. Long? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.